These are hairpin legs, which I picked up on Amazon for about 10 bucks a piece. Coincidentally, they look similar to my own legs, which is why you'll never see me wearing shorts. Last week, my friend Dave asked if I could build him an end table. He only had two stipulations. One, that I use these hairpin legs, and two, that the top be a 15-inch circle. Now you can buy pre-cut circles and just slap these legs on, but the circles are usually pine, which is okay, but whenever I build something out of pine, it tends to have a more rustic look, and I want this one to be a little classy. So I went to Menards to pick up a nice solid piece of wood. I chose mahogany. Mahogany is a fairly hard wood. It's straight grained. It has a nice red color. It looks great whether it's natural or stained finish. So let me show you how I take this 3/4 inch, 8-foot long board and turn it into a 1.5 inch thick, 15-inch diameter, beautiful tabletop. Watch out for splits in the wood. I'll start off on the other end by marking off 15.5 inch lengths. These pieces are going to be glued together to give me the 1.5 inch thickness I'm after. However, I don't want the two layers edge joined in the same spot. I want them to overlap. So in order to do that, I'm going to cut one of the pieces on the top layer smaller. Now the joints will overlap. Sometimes when you cut wood using a table saw, the ends are not perfectly square. You can fix this by using a hand planer or an edger, like this old antique given to me by Fred Flintstone. The purpose of the vertical clamps, if you haven't figured it out by now, is to keep the board flat up against the bar clamps while it's drying. This is one of the few times you'll ever hear me say sand against the grain. I'm doing it here to help get the boards completely flat, and I'm only going to do it on the two faces that I'll be gluing together. At first, I used my jigsaw to cut the circle, but the blade started to bend a little and I was getting a crooked cut, so off to the bandsaw to finish the job. The key to a good table is a flat surface, so I start by using my belt sander carefully with 80 grit sandpaper, followed by some hand sanding using a flat block. More sanding. For the final sanding, I'm using my orbital sander. Now be careful if you use these because they tend to leave small circles in the wood. I'm using 220 grit, so if there are circles, they will be barely visible. However, I will follow this up by using more hand sanding in the direction of the grain using a flat piece of wood. First 120, then 220. Here, I'm applying mineral spirits to the wood for two reasons. First, it pre-treats the wood to accept stain evenly. Secondly, it'll show any scratches that I've missed in the sanding process. It'll even show those orbital sanding circles I mentioned earlier. On the bottom side, I'm using a water-based polyurethane to seal the wood because it dries faster and brush cleanup is with water. But on the top, I'm going to use oil-based poly. I think there's a difference. I like the shinier, smoother, and richer looking finish you'll get with the oil-based polyurethane. Some people might disagree, but that's my opinion. After the first coat, I'll lightly sand with 220 grit sandpaper, clean it up, and give it a second coat. I'll sand a second time and then apply the third coat of poly, but no sanding after the third coat. If the last coat doesn't come out really smooth, you might try brushing it down with some superfine steel wool and give it a coat of wax. Mounting the three legs accurately is a little tricky. Sure, you can eyeball it, but if you want them perfectly spaced apart, here's what you can do. Let's say you wanted to divide a 3-inch diameter circle into 3 equal parts. Draw a line through the center. Move your compass to the edge of the circle where it intersects the center. Make 2 marks at the 2 outer edges of the circle, and where these 2 lines intersect, draw a line to the center of the circle. There's your 3 equal parts. My tabletop is 15 inches in diameter. I don't have a compass that large, so here's what you can do. Outline your tabletop on a piece of paper and cut out the circle. Fold it in half to mark your center line. Take 2 wooden rulers or paint sticks, whatever you've got. Secure a pencil to each one. Drill a hole in the middle. Screw them together tightly. Now I set the distance between the pencil tips at 7.5 inches, which is half the circle diameter. Using the same principle as I did on the 3-inch circle, I can separate this circle into 3 equal parts. I'm putting a mark on the wood at each point. From this spot, I'll measure in 1.5 inches, which will be the corner of my hairpin leg mounting brackets. I put 1 screw into each leg to hold them in place, but I still need to figure out the perfect left-right adjustments. I do this by measuring the distance from the center hole to the end of the outer edge of the circle. When all 6 ends are identical, I mark the holes and pre-drill them all. When pre-drilling holes, you don't want to accidentally drill through the other side. Ask me how I know. So, put a piece of tape on the drill to mark a safe distance. So the nice thing about using these hairpin legs, they come in all different sizes. And if you're a welder, you can even make your own. Well, thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll be a subscriber to Alley Picked and check out some of my other videos. Oh, and Dave, your table's ready.